one of the firefighters was telling me that they were very suspicious about the fires this year because it's never been this bad in all of the years that they were working as firefighters.
For El Nino, they're worried about flooding on the coast.
And it got to the point where, I couldn't continue to look my children in their eyes and say, this is where Daddy worked.
Jesse will argue that none of us exists on a certain level, right? Vilcabamba is something special for us. That's where we met. That's where we were married. That's where we were baptized and got our faith.
I wanted, ease of immigration, safety, and I wanted clean. I wanted pristine. I wanted clean soil, clean water, clean air, those kinds of things. Hey guys, welcome back to the Ecuador Insider Podcast. Jesse, Brandon, Carl, glad to be with you. Carl, what are we holding in our hands?
All right, guys. So we had a stressful morning. We decided to buy some wine to relax a bit for the podcast. This is Ambrosia wine made in Vilcabamba. Neri Santin, he's got his wine shop right across our real estate office. And this wine is Mora, so it's blackberry wine, but he also makes mandarin wine, honey, strawberry, banana wine, and a few other things. Really delicious, sweet wine. It's good served cold, $10 for a bottle here in Vilcabamba, and we enjoy it.
It's organic wine, right?
It's organic, don't panic.
Organic, don't panic. Salud.
Cheers, bro.
Salud.
All right.
Thanks for watching, guys. Salud to you.
It's kind of representative of one of the cool things about Vilcabamba, which is just all the cottage industry stuff. And there's a lot of great ways to support people's lives here, through buying truly local. We have truly local supply chains here in Vilcabamba.
That's right.
Basically, you're friends with all the people that make the products, which is awesome. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Right now, hit the like button, please. We would really appreciate your support on the channel. We would also love to hear from you in the comments. Keep the questions coming. So if you have any questions about Ecuador at all, we actually have a live Q&A coming out prior to this video, but there'll be another one. There'll be another one after that. So please put your questions in the comments. We will answer them both on YouTube, on the YouTube comments, occasionally in our podcast, and also get them answered on the live Q&As. So thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button as well. We got a fun pod today. We're going to give you some updates. So we'll talk a little bit about El Nino, because it's interesting. Give a little update too on the fires, which we're going to have to eat crow again. I think this is about 17 weeks in a row. Going to give a little update on the fires and also talk politics. But really, the topic of today's show is, what does Ecuador mean to you? We're going deep. I don't know if the wine goes well with going deep, but we're going deep. We're going deep today. What does Ecuador mean to you? Talk a little bit about why we're here, what it means to us, what it means to our families, our lives. Kind of what Ecuador and Vilcabamba in this area as well represents for us. So let's get right into it.
Actually, have you ever heard of the saying, in vino veritas? It's a Latin saying. We say that where I'm from, at least my family say it. It means la vérité est dans le bon vin, which means truth comes out with good wine.
Yeah.
So wine is good when we want to go deep.
All right. There you have it. So, okay, that makes sense why Project Veritas has the name it does. It's truth. Is that basically, thank you. You learned something new whenever you're around Carl. All right, so let's jump right into the weather. So I saw an interesting article that, everybody is preparing for El Nino. And, I'm not the details guy, as you know. Brandon is the details guy, but I don't know what any of these things actually mean. I don't know if you do or not, but I don't know what these things actually mean, but people are worried right now about droughts and I guess flooding. I don't know if there's extremes in different areas. We're in dry season here. It hasn't rained hardly at all in a long time, which is normal. That happens every year. The rivers are very low. I was seeing some stuff that Cuenca is kind of running out of water,
right? Which
is super weird because they have 1,000 rivers. I don't know exactly how that works, but I guess wherever they get it from is running low.
I think what's happening in Cuenca, if I got it correctly, it's not that they're running out of water per se for drinking, is that the power plants, hydroelectric power plants are too low for some of the dams, and they actually have power outages, or they have to they're what they're doing is they're cutting the power at certain times of the day.
In Cuenca.
Yes,
Right
correct.
now.
That's
Oh
what
wow,
that's
that I did
that's
not
what I read.
realize.
Yes. So that's because usually those dams are super full, and right now they're quite low, actually. So there's not enough power being generated. So that's what's going on in Cuenca, from my understanding.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's going on. We'll see how that plays out. And I don't know, is that related to these fires? You know, I have no idea. I'm certainly not an expert on any of this, but we've had some big fires. I've been here 10 years, you 12, I think.
Mhm.
And you know, we've talked about this a number of times. There's usually a little bit of burning that goes on right around this time of year, prior to rainy season when crops are planted. This year, the fire, and usually occasionally those get out of control. You'll have like the side of a mountain burned, or you'll have a little area that gets burned. Generally speaking, those have been very tame and very mild. This year, they've been wild, and it seemed like they were controlled a week ago, maybe a little more than that,
Just about.
and then they were blazing again over these last days. So it's been interesting. A fire, so no one had died. Now a firefighter has actually passed away. You know, I believe from fighting the fires. I don't,
Yeah.
and there has been, I know in other parts of the country, there's some houses and communities that the fire, you know, ripped through a bit. But it's been wild.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, there was a fire recently in our neighborhood. We have a neighborhood WhatsApp group. There was a call made. Hey, whoever is available, come and help with the fire. So I actually drove there, brought some shovels, some picks, some tools, and showed up. And the firefighters were there. And you know, they just whoever was there, they asked for help. So we carried the hose up the mountain, started fighting the fire. They have these. Fire extinguisher. I guess it's like a big broomstick with a large a large pad, and you know they actually extinguished the fire with that, or beat the fire. How would you say it? Anyway,
Extinguished is good.
yeah.
Extinguish the fire.
So
yeah.
so those are the tool that's used here, and do some backfire. So I went out for I don't know 3, 4, 5 hours through the night, and got to speak to some of the firefighters and just ask them for their opinion. And it was very interesting to speak to them. So to touch on what you were saying, the firefighter who passed away was from Loja. He was fighting a fire in Quilanga, which is not really this area, but it's part of the province of Loja.
A couple hours away.
Couple hours away, 2, 3 hours away, and apparently slipped and fell in the fire, and actually didn't pass away right there. He was transported to hospital, and died maybe 2, 3 days later. This is what happened there. One of the firefighters was telling me that they were very suspicious about the fires this year because it's never been this bad in all of the years that they were working as firefighters. And one of the things that he brought up is that they flew a drone to a mountain nearby where a fire had started, and they noticed that the fire almost started at the top of the mountain, somewhere where almost nobody goes to ever. It's really hard to access by foot. It's possible, but nobody was burning a field or anything, and it kind of started right at the top. And what he said was that it's possible, and I'd never heard that before. I don't know if you guys have, but that if there's broken glass or some bottle that was left there with the really hard sun, and it's been so dry and windy that a little fire could
that actually
start.
makes sense. Yeah,
that a fire could start in a random area. And I was thinking about where it was. It's on top of Unanga, right? So it's one of the highest peaks there. And I could see people, going there to have a few beer and hang out sometimes, years ago, and left some bottles there. So that's possibly why some of the fires have started. Now, of course, there are people who burn down their fields or just burn down the brush, and that gets out of control, and eventually, it burns a whole mountainside. So that's also going on. But for me, the takeaway from my experience with the firefighters was, well, first of all, they do need help whenever there's a fire. Like there's 4 firefighters I think on call in Vilcabamba. There's 2 more that came from Malacatos. But anyone that's an able body that's able to go and help them, they'll definitely take the help.
Yeah.
So we carried the hose up. We were macheting trees and moving brush, and but yeah, anytime there's a fire, if you're able to help, that's definitely welcomed. And it was just a very uniting, binding experience to fight the fires with these guys, and they were very, very grateful and thankful for the help. And
That's awesome, dude. It's like that's like a perfect example of one of the reasons I'm here. What does Ecuador mean to me? We're not there yet, but that's one of them. That's community. You're part of the, and maybe you weren't the only people in the community there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. Actually, I didn't even know you were doing it until you started sending videos.
Sure.
And it was actually awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Carl was like in the fight. We should put some clips into that.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Like you were in it, like helping the community. That's real community. It's real freaking community, which
Sure.
is awesome.
Yeah.
And not to make light of a serious situation, but I'm going to, because the opportunity presents itself and I take advantage of those opportunities when they do. But tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
That you know those firefighter calendars that they have in this,
Yeah.
the section. I mean, he would be a perfect addition to the firefighter calendar.
Thanks, Brandon.
Carrying the hose over the shoulder, the yellow's on. Dude, it would be perfect addition.
I think you'd be a good candidate for that as well.
We have a friend.
Does Carl need his ego built up more?
No. I mean, part of this is we have a good friend. Hey, Megan. Hey, Jeff. Back in the States, and she has a thing for firefighters. I'm like, what do you think, Megan? Put some comments below. Would Carl make a great firefighter in the calendar? I think so.
I thought about it at some point. Becoming a firefighter. not doing calendars. No, I think it's it's a physical job. You're working out most of the time, staying in good shape and helping people. So
yeah, I mean, what's cool too, right, is that you guys are mentioning that is something I appreciate about here and how it relates to that is that you don't have regulations or authority that stops regular people from helping when there's stuff going on. It's like back home, whatever the authorities are for the situation they're dealing with, you try to run in like, hey guys, what do you need? I'm here. Get out of here. Right. Yeah, they're like, get out of here. And, and here it's not at all, right? It's like, so that's cool. Yeah.
It was a total opposite. Right?
And let's address a little bit now, because the way we described what we've learned about some of the fires on the mountaintops, and they're not really accessible, and the broken glass. We know that we're going to get the comments of the DDoS, the directed energy weapons. Did you guys just miss a directed energy weapon?
We just got delisted from YouTube.
Right,
now that you said that.
That's great, right? But they exist. Nobody denies that they don't.
That's true.
That they don't exist. So we're not saying they don't exist. We don't know. We haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Is it possible? I mean, I guess. I mean, but just know that the broken bottle that happened to get the sun at the right angle to start a spark. People are gonna have a field day.
I mean, no one's more conspiracy theory than I am. Yeah. This is not that.
I mean,
it just is.
Right.
Like,
I'm just saying, like, it's hard to believe that a piece of broken glass started all these fires in all these different places. I'm just saying.
Well, if we want to get into that, yeah, you're right. It is totally 100%.
And I don't think anyone's saying that, anyways. Like, there's a denuncia put on, a legal lawsuit put on someone who did start a fire here.
No, some of them for sure.
And it's a common practice here.
You can see it. Like, it starts in a place and it turns black. I mean, it burns. So
and they've been caught on video starting the fires. So yes, we're having a little fun, but yes, there's.
No, actually, in the security WhatsApp group, which if you live in Vilcabamba and you're still not on the security group, go to the police station.
I'm not on the security group. You got to get me on there.
I'm not on the security group either. You know what's crazy? So my wife watched our podcast and found out about the security group. She's like, "What the heck? Carl doesn't even tell you about that. He tells everybody on YouTube, but doesn't even tell you."
I've told you guys plenty of times about this.
You've mentioned it.
I've mentioned
it. I would confirm that.
Anyways, what I was gonna say though is that on the security group, someone noticed some guys with, I believe they even had like some kind of gasoline, or they were putting gasoline to start a fire, to burn a pile of brush. What it looked to me like they were trying to burn something, right? And post it on the group and have the police go over there and tell them not to do that, because but it's a cultural thing. Yeah. It's part of it's a tradition almost that they do that before the rains, because it's better for the grass and for whatever they're wanting to plant.
So I looked up the article, since I couldn't remember when I was talking about it, for El Nino. They're worried about flooding on the coast.
Yes.
That is basically the issue at this point. And it says, earlier this week, no, that's not the part I want to read. The part I want to read is, and further strengthening is expected. It added that flooding rains could arrive on the coast and coastal lowlands sooner than previously expected. That wasn't the part either. But they're worried about flooding on the coast. There's going to be some months of rain. That's the El Nino story. Let's jump in.
No, but I would want to jump in that because I spoke to some local people, and the what they're being told anyways is that we might have less rain this rainy season here.
Yep.
Because there's going to be so much of the rain elsewhere. I guess on the coast is one of the main places where people are very worried about El Nino, and there's more flooding on the coast because it's flat, because it's right on the ocean.
Sure.
The water just doesn't just drain down. In the mountains here, if there's a flash flood or whatever, if there's a really heavy rain, it goes down the river and goes towards Catamayo and goes further towards the coast.
And the land is less saturated. The soil.
Yes,
right.
definitely because of the nature of the terrain. But we do have a little bit of landsliding, not major, but sometimes there's some rocks or dirt that comes down on some of the roads and stuff like that, which happens every year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So let me read this part, which confirms what you're saying. So Gonzalez said the heavy rains could arrive in November and continue through February of 2024. According to Gonzalez, coastal areas up to 1,000 meters in elevation should expect flooding rains, while areas from 1,000 meters to 1,500 meters could experience a mix of heavy rains and drought. In the Sierra, which is where we are, the mountains, from 1,500 meters elevation upward, residents can expect drought conditions that could affect farming and electric power generation.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, so that's what's happening in Cuenca. From what I was told. Now it could be they're saying that it's going to happen, but my understanding is they were already turning off power at certain times of the day to prevent an outage.
All right, let's jump into politics. So we've talked about that a number of times on the pod. Got a little work going on here in the background. Hopefully the sound is okay. New polls have come out. Here we go again. Daniel. I hit it. I did it. Daniel Novoa.
Daniel, if you want to be precise.
Novoa has thank you for correcting my Spanish accent, bro. I appreciate that. Well, in that case, you were right. In that case, you were 100% right. Daniel Novoa, how am I doing, Spanish speakers? Was that? Has increased his lead over Isabel Gonzalez. Luisa. I nailed it. Second time. Second time's a charm. Yeah.
Keep going.
He said Gonzalez in the poll. So he's up over 10 points now, according to the latest polls. We've got elections coming up here in about 2.5 weeks. About 2.5 weeks. So at this point, barring the significant change, a significant event, an October surprise. Was it October surprise I stay back home, or is it November? I think it's October. Politically, Noboa will win, which, you come down wherever you come down on politics, of course. However, if you're concerned about socialism specifically, right? If you're concerned about, hey, could we go back to a ideology that's sort of a Hugo Chavez, Venezuela, Cuba type ideology, that does not look possible at this point, given a 10 plus point lead in the polls.
Although,
go ahead.
All of our watchers back in the U.S. know all about polls and the Hillary Clinton Donald Trump campaign a few years ago, because Hillary was leading in all the polls until the end, right? So again, take it with a grain of salt. The polls are polls, but hasn't been historically, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, there hasn't been that historically the manipulation in the polls in Ecuador.
No, there has. Absolutely.
There has.
100%.
No. Awesome.
So I'll tell you a funny story about that. So in 2016, it was the current president, Guillermo Lasso, was running against Lenin Moreno. And Lasso was up in the polls consistently. And they banned exit polling after this, is my understanding. Check me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong about that part.
Yes.
They've done that in a number of elections. That started in Venezuela, really. That really started in Venezuela. But yes, but no, this is interesting. So Guillermo Lasso at 5 p.m. had won. So exit polls were released by a number of, Ceratos and the other companies that do the polling here. The exit polls were released, and Guillermo Lasso won by like 3 to 8 points, depending on the exit poll. Like, he won. It was like 5 points for sure. They literally were throwing a party. So I was in Loja at the time. I was living in Loja in 2016. I was only 2-3 blocks from the center square. I walked to the center square just kind of for fun to see what was going on. It was because the exit polls had come out. There was a big celebration on Facebook for people who supported Lasso. And his political party was throwing a party in the center square, like, we won, they're playing music and dancing. 2-3 hours later, he lost. So the exit polls in that election were off by like 6, 7, 8 points.
Okay.
And there was a lot of accusations.
So we're still in the margin of error. If he's got a 10-point lead.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
So
and they did shut off the power.
Yeah, that happened in 2 elections.
Se cayó el sistema.
Yeah, that's right.
No hay sistema.
Yeah, there's like a CNE has a tabulation website where you can go on and see it live as the votes are coming in, similar to like you'd watch on the media and back home. And they twice in 2 different elections they went down with one candidate doing much better than the other and came back with the opposite.
Awesome.
And so it was, yeah.
I remember the day, yeah.
Anyhow, all right, so that's the political story at this point in time. But they would have a revolution on their hands, I think, if they tried that now with this sort of situation. So, anyways, all right, Brandon, you seemed, I like your ability to go deep. I like your ability to go deep. You look ready. You sounded ready.
What are you talking about?
You sounded ready.
I don't know what you're talking about.
A minute. I haven't gotten there yet. Still prefacing. You sounded ready.
Talks a lot.
You sounded ready a minute ago. So let's start here. You moved here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
A little more at this point? A little more at this point. A couple of years ago. Wife, 2 kids. Yep. You came from corporate America.
Yep.
Brandon was a big shot.
No.
Brandon was a big shot. So you came from, that kind of lifestyle. Your wife, of course, is an accountant as well. Yep. You're a finance guy and came from corporate America, came from, all of what that lifestyle means.
Yeah.
You picked up your family, obviously with their consent, I assume. You picked up your family and you moved to South America. You moved to a little town in the southern Andes Mountains of Ecuador.
Yeah.
A country that when I got here, 10 years ago, North Americans, people from the States, couldn't tell you where it was, couldn't find it on a map. I used to go home. Now they know it's changed. But when I used to go home and people would say, I'd say, yeah, I'm living in Ecuador. And they'd say, oh, Central America, cool. I'd get those kinds of comments. So you moved your family down here to this little town, this weird little town in the southern Andes. Been here for 2.5 years. What made you do that? Like, what does this place mean to you? Why are you here with your family? And what does this all mean to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess for me, it's like, you're right. I was in corporate America. I was doing what everybody does. I was climbing the ladder, playing the corporate games, keeping up with the Joneses, doing that stuff, but not really. Like my heart was never in it. I was never like, this is really what I want to do. There was always these naive perceptions I had about what America was, what family was, what mattered, what was purposeful, what purpose-driven life was, what that meant, how did that look, and over that time in the States, I realized it was much more listening to other people's opinions about what I should do, what I should think, what's best for you, this is how it should be, this is what you do, this is why you do it. And I got the hook in my mouth and I did it for a long time, but knowing deep down, like, this is not right for me, this is not what I should do, I'm not meant to do this, but I'm going to do it. And that's where I went back to college and I got my degree in finance and accounting, and I went into public accounting and I audited banks for a while, which was interesting. I mean, it's weird because I got a lot of value. There was like these weird experiences that, they were naive decisions that were kind of like, I shouldn't be doing this now. I know I shouldn't, but then I did it. And then there were all these lessons I got from it. And with the banking thing, I was auditing banks during 2008. For those 5 years from 2007 to 2013, I was auditing financial institutions and credit unions. And you saw the inside of TARP and the subprime crisis, and you see that stuff. And you know, and it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes to what the financial system really is, and the, you know, the fractional reserve banking system, and way beyond just that. But then how the policies work, and how the, you know, the farm bills work, and the lobbying with the banking industry, and how it's all interconnected. So it made me realize, like, all right, this is not for me. So but I didn't learn the lesson fully. You know, I jumped into the next phase of corporate America, which I got out of public accounting, and I went and worked for a large food manufacturer, one of the largest food manufacturers in the world. And I really was passionate about, I wanted to work on some of their sustainable farming projects. They had this regenerative farming, they were regenerating farmland and all this, yada, yada. So I decided to start working for them, and I put in time to do that because I started iteratively listening to, you know, what I thought was important, and, you know, what I was being called for versus what everyone else thought. So that was like a step towards that. And then again, this was another naive, eye-opening experience, because then I learned, you know, the inside of commercial food manufacturing, and the down and dirty, behind the scenes, what really goes into making commercially produced food. And it's not all bad, but there's a lot of stuff that you're like, holy crap, I can't believe this is really what we do. I can't believe this is how we make food. I can't believe this is how we lobby to get laws passed to do things to preserve food just for the sake of preservation, for profit, versus what's truly healthy for people. And it got to the point where, you know, I couldn't continue to look my children in their eyes and say, this is where Daddy works. You know, they know these brands, they know all these things. All of our kids know these brands, if, you know, from the States. Why can't I eat that, Daddy? You make it, Daddy. Why can't we have that, Daddy? And it's just like, I started dying. Like, I'm like, oh my God, how am I helping do this, right? How am I adding value to this? And I got jaded, and that's kind of where it started, was there's got to be something different. I don't know what the answer is, but it's not this. It's not this. It's not continue to do this to provide for my family, to buy a house and make, you know, have a 30-year mortgage and do all this stuff and buy a new car and keep up with the Joneses and compete with whose lawn's prettier.
Hamster wheel.
And, yeah, it was a hamster wheel, and it was burnt out. So for me, it was more like a process over time that led me to Ecuador. And it was to be honest, I mean, you know, I know you're going to say there's no accidents, right? Ecuador was an accident for us. It was an accident because we were just superficially looking for like a warmer place. I was so angry and frustrated. I was just fed up I blamed it all on the winter in the Midwest. I'm like, I want to get the hell out of the winter. I can't do it anymore. I was ornery and angry and depressed.
You're still pretty.
I'm a little ornery now.
I would hate to have seen you then.
Oh, dude, it was bad. Yeah. Tiffany's a saint.
Tiffany is the saint.
Yeah. So it was really superficial, and it was warmer weather, Southern America, Texas, Florida, looking at stuff like that, and then finding, you know, that the culture really wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I wanted, and I wasn't listening to everybody else anymore.
Sorry, the culture way back home. You
back in the States, yeah. I wasn't listening to friends and family anymore. It was like Tiffany and I looked at each other, and this is kind of maybe this is kind of the part that helped us get here. So we started asking ourselves 5 questions every day. Who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you value? How do you want to spend your time? What do you want to teach your kids? And those questions, they sound easy, they sound superficial, but if you actually want to have good answers to those, and really answers that are true for you, they're not something you can just come off the cuff and answer, right? You need to actually put thought into and think about how you want to answer those questions, because I know for me, like, I'm not the person I want to be. I accept that. But so who do I want? So to change in the right direction, I need to identify who I want to be.
Yeah.
And say, all right, this is who I want to be. This is who I am today. What do I need to do to become the person I want to be for my family, for my friends, for my parents, for my, you know, my wife, for my business?
Well, asking those kinds of questions gives such accountability too.
Right.
You know, you direct the ship and then have accountability to ask every day. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
So if you're not who you are, if you're not who you want to be, then, you know, what do you value and how do you want to spend your time? Answering those questions help you become who you want to be. So, well, what do you value? And I started putting, you know, when I was forced to do like a accountability, you know, the nerdy accountants that are watching this, if you had to make a T account and do the debits and credits for the pros and cons for moving this way, it's like, what do you value? I started putting less value on what everyone else thought, right? And what everyone else told me and what society told me and what the media told me and what school told me and what my professors told me.
You broke out of the matrix.
Yeah, in a way, right? Where I just started valuing what Tiffany and I thought about what we wanted for ourselves and our family more than anything else. And as you go through that process, then you can start saying like, hey, well, I want to spend my time doing the things I value to become the person I want to be a better person for my friends, my family, as a better son, a better father, a better friend, a better business partner. Well, in order to do that, then you have to make trades, because in the system I was in, working sometimes 60, 70 hours a week during certain seasons of the year, you don't have time to do some of that. Or I didn't have the time to be able to purposefully be a better father or improve myself or be a better person. So then it went from superficially looking for weather to like, what do I really value? Well, I value time with my family and community. I want to be part of something. I want to be part of a community. And you know, in the States, even though we had, you know, you lived in a neighborhood and you had friends, you didn't really have community. You might have a couple of people here and there that you'd get together with that were in your community, but your friends were all over the country, or they're all over the city, or they're all over the place. So you didn't really have that close-knit community where you actually lived. It was more superficial. You waved to your neighbors. You have a couple neighbors that you're close with, but you didn't have that real, you didn't feel that community value. So we started looking for that. And for us, it actually, you know, the journey started in, you know, the southern United States, and then it just kept going further south. And strangely, the further south I got, the more the community felt real. And for a time, I thought it was Costa Rica, and then it ended up not being. We thought it was Mexico, then Costa Rica, and then we kept going further south. And as we kept coming south, we saw Ecuador, and we were immediately attracted to all the natural beauty that we talk about all the time on the channel, the clean water, clean food, the epic vistas, the great views, the mountains, the different subclimates that are all in a very small location, the Galapagos, the beach, the Cotopaxi, the volcanoes, all that stuff. But then we started seeing like this culture, this beautiful South American culture where family matters. Like, does everybody remember that show? Anybody remember Urkel? In Family, is that Family Matters? That's what it's called, right? Is it? Or no?
Urkel's show was
that
Family Matters. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So how do you do that purposefully, right? So that's what ended us getting us to Ecuador, is that we wanted to with purpose, with intent, work on family, work on community, be part of community, contribute to community, and not care about what everybody else thinks, not care about whether my lawn's mowed and perfect and no dandelions. I don't even give a shit about that. I didn't give a crap about it then. I don't, you know, I
Gosh,
wanted...
you flashed me back to 90s TV right there. I'm like,
you know, it's so good.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great show. But even, you know, honestly, it's almost like that is gone. That era is gone from the States. So it's way beyond the Leave It to Beaver in the 50s shows. But even those 80s, 90s sitcoms, that's not America anymore.
No, it isn't.
It's the Cosby. Family Matters, the Family Ties, I
mean, it was all fake anyway to some degree, but we thought we had that, and we did.
We did,
yeah,
and it was based on an ideal that doesn't.
That's right.
It's not even based on that anymore. Like, society's not even based on that. So,
no.
So for us, Ecuador is like real community. It's real family. You feel it. It's tangible. I want to be part of it. It's here, and it's not pretend. it's Ecuadorians, it's gringos. I mean, Carl's example with the firefighting is a perfect example.
Yeah.
He went out freaking fighting fires in the community. How awesome is that, man? Like, it's awesome. And like, you know, the cell phone thing, like the community came together. They found a guy that stole a cell phone from a tienda owner. The community did that. That was the community, man.
Tienda's store, by the way.
The community's beautiful here. That's why, I mean, that's long-winded, but that's why we're here, man. Like, I almost wanted to choke up a little bit telling you that, but I mean, that's the truth, you know? That's why we're here.
Amen.
Awesome. Beautiful, man. So, guys, I got a couple of questions for you, those of you watching this pod. So, number one, would you like to see, and put it in the comments, please, would you like to see Brandon and his family interviewed, probably by myself? If you don't want to be me, you can put Carl in the comments. Probably by myself, about their move to Ecuador, their experiences here. If you'd like to see that in the comments, please put Brandon or Brandon and fam or his better half Tiffany in the comments. We'd love to hear from you about that. Beautiful story, man. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, so there was another thing. I had another way to get people to comment that I've
Well, while you're thinking
misplaced.
that, I want to. You see this, guys? This is Weetig. It's Weetig water. It's what's the word? Mochala. Is that where it's from?
Machala?
No,
I think it's up north.
So.
There's
I think it's near Cotopaxi.
So
actually.
it's cool though. It's a natural spring water. The water comes out of the Andes. The snow melts in the Andes, and it goes through these subterranean aquifers, and it gathers all these minerals. It's super mineral dense, and then the volcanic activity above the aquifer. It's the Cotopaxi volcano. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, Cotopaxi.
The Cotopaxi volcano. It actually carbonates the water naturally. It's phenomenal. It's got a great taste. It's fully mineralized, and I think it's been in Ecuador for like 115 years or something crazy.
And it is up from that area up north in Pinchincha. So I forgot. I remembered. So here's the other thing, guys. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to comment, and I also want you to email Brandon.
No.
Brandon at
Don't give out my
abecuador.com.
email.
Brandon at abecuador.com. Brandon is the principal holdup for the ladies' pod. So he needs to pressure his wife to
No, we got a date.
We got a date?
Got a date.
Oh, good.
All right. Only in the comments. No emailing Brandon anymore. But if you want to see the ladies' pod, that's coming soon.
That's our wives. The three
Brand,
of us.
yes.
So it'll be the end of October. October.
All right.
All right.
We'll film it the October 24th. We'll get it out that weekend.
Nice.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Perfect.
All right.
Maybe.
So, yeah, no, really, thanks for sharing. That was beautiful. And I want to get back after, Carl and myself share a little bit. I want to get back to sort of what you've found here, after now that you've been here a couple of years. Like, did it live up to expectations? Did it
I'm
not?
not really here, bro.
Like,
I'm not real. Right? What is it? I'm not real. What did she do? I'm not real. That dude in the back of the plane's not real.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
real.
Jesse will argue that none of us exists, by the way,
well,
on a certain level, right?
all right.
Yeah, we always exist.
Like, that's
Okay.
right.
For me and you, bro.
Yeah. I'll try to share a little bit of the history of how I got here as well, just to copy Brandon because it sounded good. No, so basically, I finished high school. So in Quebec, Canada, I'm from there, French Canadian. French is my first language. That's why you hear me make grammatical mistakes here and there. That being said, we finished high school at 17 years old. We don't have grade 12. We finish at grade 11, and that's high school for us.
Okay.
I think we pack it into less years maybe, or something like that, but then we can move on to university from there. So finished high school, 17 years old, started traveling, didn't know what I wanted to do as a career. So traveled through Canada, did a volunteer program, lived in 3 different provinces. It was great. Once I ended that, I read a book, Paulo Coelho, which...
The Alchemist or a different one?
I read The Alchemist, but he also has the Camino, or... The Camino, or is there another name for it? The El Camino, I think. Or, anyways, it was about the St. James Way, or Camino de Santiago de Compostela. It's this pilgrimage in Europe the book was about his experience, or a fictional character's experience of that. So I decided to do that. So I was 18 years old, long hair, backpacker. I flew to France, hitchhiked to the south of France, and started walking this pilgrimage. And I guess the reason for that, through reading the book, and also through reading other spiritual books that I had found in my stepfather's. Uh, so my stepdad at the time, he had someone who had donated a box of books or something to him. He wasn't into that, but he had this box of books, and I read some of the books. They were, I guess you could call them spiritual books, which would be, there was one about near-death experiences and sort of like life after death and whatnot. And I'd read that and other things. So basically, I was raised an atheist. My parents told me that God doesn't exist, that there is, that we come from monkeys and the Big Bang, and that's what I was raised with, right? Kind of made fun of religions to some extent. But then I started reading some spiritual books and got interested, and kind of became curious in that. So that's why I did this pilgrimage, 40 days of walking all by myself in silence. When I came back from that trip, that was in northern Spain, south of France, and all of north of Spain. It was a beautiful experience, actually. That was, what was that, 15, 20 years ago almost now. I think it was different. There was not as much tourism. Now I hear it's very, very touristy, but I'd like to do it again. I'm thinking of taking my family there one day in the future. But when I came back from that, I did this meditation retreat, Vipassana, 10 days of silence. So I was really on a spiritual quest to discover the meaning of life, I guess, which I still am. But basically from there I met this gentleman. Shout out to Aram. I don't know if you're watching my videos, but this guy was a raw vegan, really hardcore. He was born and raised in the forest in Quebec, in Canada. His parents were hippies. They raised goats. He a very unusual guy, and he was a raw vegan. He was a reggae singer, and he had this farm. So he invited me to go and live on the farm, and so I learned about the raw vegan movement, the philosophy of eating raw fruits and vegetables, and raw food. But yeah, these guys were really like full on raw vegan at the time, and I got really inspired. And so I got onto this journey of seeking health, seeking the perfect human diet, I guess, and went and did an apprenticeship at a raw food retreat center in Arizona called the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center. And while I was there were a lot of people, raw foodists, vegans, that were talking about Vilcabamba. Vilcabamba was being spoken about. They said, oh, this guy Matt Monarch, he came to our retreat center here. He lives over there in Vilcabamba. Apparently it's a paradise for raw food, for raw vegans. And and me and my girlfriend at the time, we're like, oh, let's check it out. So we look on YouTube, we start watching Matt Monarch's videos, and then she decides to email Angela, who's Matt Monarch's wife. And they lived here in Vilcabamba. They had a property. They were making videos, kind of showcasing the area and whatnot. And she emails Angela and asks her if she knows a place where we could go if we wanted to come visit. And Angela and Matt offer to us that they will pay for our flight, and they will let us stay in their guest house for 3 weeks for free if we bring a whole bunch of bags of superfood and products and health products from their warehouse in California. And we're like, all right, let's go. So we pack our bags, we fly, we carrying 500 pounds of Brazil nuts and nori rolls and vitamin B12, and all of that stuff. And that's how we showed up in Vilcabamba. Now, we were thinking maybe we'll only be here for 3 weeks. We didn't know we were going to stay here. And it was my first time traveling actually to South America. I had traveled, like I said, in Europe and a little bit in the U.S., in Arizona and Canada, but never been to Latin America. So didn't know what to expect. Showed up here, and after 3 weeks, I was like, this is great. I could stay here for much longer. So that's what brought me here.
You were how old at the time?
I was 20 years old at the time when I first arrived in Ecuador. That's right.
So you did that hike, walk, pilgrimage, whatever you want to call it, in Spain at like 18, 19.
Yeah, I was 18, I think. Yeah. 18, 19, yeah. I think I was
how long was that?
That was 40 days.
40 days.
Yeah.
Walking, basically.
40 days of walking, yeah. It's a famous thing. They made some movies about it. You've heard of it, right?
No, I don't know about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a walk the story behind it, just to make it quick, is that apparently they found the tomb of the Apostle James, Saint
Okay.
James, Santiago, Saint James in Spanish. Saint Jacques de Compostelle is in French. And once they found his tomb there, they built a cathedral, or I mean, they built a chapel, and eventually became this big cathedral. And in the Middle Ages, if you were like that's the story, anyways, is that if you were like a criminal, that in order to repent from your sins, you were sent to Santiago. So you had to go and walk this long pilgrimage. You know, some people died along the way because it was, the wilderness basically,
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you would repay your debt. That was kind of going to jail, but you have to go and prove that you've actually made it, and then you come back to your homeland, something along those lines. So I did that. I mean, through reading the book, not from a Christian or Catholic perspective at all at the time, but it was a great experience. Walking in silence for 40 days, basically, at 18 years old.
Good.
What?
Do you think our wives could do it?
Our wives? Maybe.
My wife
think
is
so.
in better shape than me.
No. I mean, not from that perspective.
Oh.
Being in silence?
For 40 days?
Oh, I totally.
Yeah.
All right, we're
Come on.
yeah. Sorry,
I got it. No, to be honest,
we're back to pissing people off.
yeah. So there are a lot of people that are doing it. When I did it, I made tons of friends. There were Germans and Spanish people and people from all over the world. I got some pictures. It was a good experience for sure. So you're not always in silence. A lot of times you make friends, you hang out, you're walking with people, you meet them again 5 days later because they went a little bit ahead or you went ahead, and it's a very very interesting experience for sure. Kind of seeking to understand myself better. So anyways, make a long story short, got to Vilcabamba. My girlfriend at the time, she Vilcabamba was not for her. She decided to move back to Vermont, where she was from.
Hey,
Yeah, Burlington, Vermont. Yeah. So and then about a year later, my wife, who became my wife, Roxanne, she did the same thing that I did. So she did an exchange with Matt and Angela, where she would also bring a bunch of stuff. She would get a free room on board and get her flights taken care of. And she moved into the guest house where I decided to stay because I loved Vilcabamba. They let me stay there for free for three weeks. And then after that, I just asked if I could pay rent and stay there. So that's where I met you. I met Monarchs.
Sure.
Pretty sure.
yeah, we used to play basketball out there.
Played basketball back in the days. That's right. And then I met my wife, Roxy, who we started traveling together. We went to Peru and Bolivia, down south. After 4.5 months of traveling, I missed Vilcabamba. I was like, you know what?
I remember when you did that. You left for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to Vilca. So eventually made it back. She got pregnant. Our son was born. And I became a father, which, I had no idea what I was getting into.
None of us
Do you now?
did.
Do you still? Have you learned?
Still, I'm learning every day, man. But yeah, it was interesting because, I was my son was born when I was 23, so I was still pretty young. And
Yeah.
And before that, it was just me, myself, and I. Just do whatever you want, have fun, no responsibility. Make chocolate balls when you when you need to make a little extra cash.
Did you used to juggle them too?
I did not juggle them.
Oh,
I don't know. That's
just a rumor?
That's a false rumor. I think.
Okay.
I think someone
I
juggled.
think one
while
of you
he
made
spun
it
the
up.
fire stick.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I did that for a while. I had a small business
Yep.
where I made chocolate balls, chocolate bars, hummus, sauerkraut, and other things.
Which a
and
lot
was
of
able to-
people do those kinds of things in Vilcabamba. That's like a thriving kind of, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And my wife Roxy and I, we were actually, veganism was our religion. Like that was our religion.
Is that right?
We became like hardcore vegans. This is how we're gonna save the planet. This is how we're gonna save mankind. This is the answer to all of humanity's problems. Like we were that far.
Wow.
Yes, which is interesting. But yeah, so we've been living here. What Vilcabamba represents for us. So yeah, but just to finish that thought, we're no longer vegans. We actually, just since we're going deep, let's go deep. No, we actually, so our marriage, our relationship was very challenging from the beginning. But once we had a son, and he was like, now we gotta provide for this family, and she's a little older than me, and we just had some ego battles and all of that. And through the challenges of our marriage and our relationship, we found Christ. We found our belief and our faith in the Bible and Christianity, and we got baptized and we started, learning. There's a whole story behind that as well, but I'll keep the details for a different episode. And yeah, we committed our lives, got remarried or got married, under a Christian covenant, and are committed, to our family, to our marriage, to our faith, and we're still here. And the reasons we're here and what Vilcabamba means for us, I mean, partially is that. Partially, the fact that we met, that the circumstances, or our differences in our personalities made it to where it was this difficult thing, and our marriage is not perfect and it's still not easy, but our faith keeps us together. But I truly believe that there was that this was destiny, basically, the way we met, the way we got together, and how that led us to our faith here in Vilcabamba, of all places in the world. Vilcabamba is something special for us. That's where we met, that's where we were married, that's where we were baptized and got our faith, and now we're still here, and we love this place for so many reasons. We believe this is a great place to raise children. Our kids have so many friends. The weather is fantastic all year round. We have community, strong community, like what you're talking about. The cost of living is very comfortable here as well, and spending time with family, community, spending time in nature, all of those values are what we have, and some of the reasons we're here. And I feel like God, personally, I feel like God wants us to be here for a reason. There's a reason why we're here, and I wouldn't see us being anywhere else at this point in time in our lives.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So your faith got reinforced and strengthened. You found it, and then it's been reinforced by staying here, it seems like. Yeah.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I mentioned, when I was sharing about my story, like not listening to other people, and as part of, how I make decisions. There was also, when I didn't listen to people, I was not listening to God either. I was hearing calls, I was hearing messages, and just ignoring it. Right. So Vilcabamba for me has been similar in that way, where it's the first time in my life where I've actually felt the call from God, and said, okay, fine. Yes. Okay. So that's, no, I mean, for real, like that, So we have that in common. And just in all seriousness, I don't believe we came from monkeys, obviously, by any means. But if we did, you wouldn't come from a monkey. You'd be like a silverback gorilla.
Actually, a red-haired orangutan. It's the wine, ladies and gentlemen.
So
the truth
good.
comes out.
I mean, it's empty. Jesse's still nursing it.
Wow.
I just used an F-bomb? I might have just swore.
You
We got to bleep that out.
Please do.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Editor.
See what happens.
No, just bleep the F.
I didn't hear it.
I realized it after the fact. I think I did. Yeah.
You guys set a very high bar, by the way. So
Yeah, but you put this up on purpose
No.
because, yes.
no, now the bar's even higher based on what you're about to say. But so you were mentioning, a few minutes ago, Brandon, about community.
Mhm.
And you were using Carl's example of fighting the fire, which is a great one, about community and how it's different here. And it's like I just want to point out to people, I would say the principal reason that that's the case is because people here, generally speaking, have been in the area they live in for many, many, many generations. Right. So like those ties go back a really, really long way. People have not been mobile here like they are. I had no idea how that affects things until I moved here. It's like back home, you have kids grow up, and they leave, and they go to the city, or they go across the country, or they go wherever they go. People here stay, and they have those generational ties that go back that long, and it creates this dynamic where people care about each other.
Right.
They help each other out, and they're accountable to one another.
Right.
It's not like you're not anonymous here at all.
Right.
Like you're known.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really interesting. It's different, and it's like, you were mentioning a little bit about beautiful story as well, both of you. You were mentioning a little bit about sort of destiny and finding your wife here, and that whole kind of experience that you went through. That's just Vilcabamba, man. Like, do you know how many people share that kind of experience, like that kind of story here, where they were called in some way to Vilcabamba, or they came here through some really interesting set of circumstances, and then wild things happen. Either they get like chewed up and spit out because they have to kind of face all their stuff in this weird like vortex of a valley we have here, or they have some beautiful story like that where they find their destiny and their purpose and their this and their that, and they kind of it's
No, it's special.
It's special in that way.
It's tangible. Yeah. Like you can feel it. It's not like, you see people and you see people processing through this, but you feel like there's, I don't even, it sounds so woo-woo to say it out loud. I'm listening to myself talk. I'm like, what are you saying? but it's, I don't know how else to explain. I can't describe it, but it's like there's some force, there's some feeling, there's some higher power direction that's saying like, do this or get the heck out of here. Whoa, I caught myself.
You almost did it again.
I caught myself.
No, 100%. So yeah, I'll share a little bit about my story, and then I really want to get into like, what it's like for us here now. Yeah. What is the actual reality on the ground? But
is this going to be a 2-part podcast?
It might.
Where are we at?
I don't know. It is the right time. 5:25. I don't know what time we started. Wow. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, I have a similar. Is that right?
Yeah.
¿Qué hora es, Fernando? Oh yeah, it is right. Gracias. Similar, really, like different and similar. I guess you were too young to really be doing the Matrix thing.
Yeah.
Brandon's got 3 or 4 years on me. We're essentially the same age. We come from a little bit. I'm 1982. That's when I was born.
79.
So, I jumped. My goal in life was to make money when I was a child, basically. Like I remember looking around at like probably 4 years old, literally, and seeing the difference between family members of mine that had money and family members of mine that didn't, and being like, yeah, that's better, right? So I really had that I was a little entrepreneur at 4, 5, 6 years old, selling, rocks or whatever, whatever somebody, right? That was
rocks.
Yeah, and sports and doing, So I came up like that, and then by the time I got into my 20s, I was on a mission. I was on a mission to do what I thought is the thing you do, which is basically to, beat the Matrix, which I didn't know was the Matrix at that time. But, to be successful so you could enjoy luxurious things and have that kind of lifestyle. That sort of conditioning and programming really got into me. That was something that I cared about tremendously and aimed my ship that way, right? It was like watch sports, play sports, and make money. It's a really sad thinking about it. Those are my goals in life. And so I spent, my teens and 20s focused on that. So I was in New York City. I grew up in Vermont, in rural Vermont, in southern Vermont. Lived in New York City for many years. I was in New York, getting an MBA, investing, working 2 jobs, on the full hamster wheel, the full rat race, the full like go and get it kind of thing. I had a daughter in 2008, and I literally didn't see her during the week because I was out of the house before she woke up and I was back home after she went to bed, right? So it was like at work early, work all day, go to school at night, finish school around 10 p.m. This was when I was getting my MBA. Before that, it was college. I did the same thing all through college, like work, and then go back to the office after work and do homework until 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Then hop on the train an hour home from Manhattan to Brooklyn, get home, somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and wake up the next morning and hit it again. And then I organized my schedule so at least the weekends were clean, so I could just spend 2 days with my daughter on the weekends. But I mean, what a miserable life! Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, you can do it in your 20s. I couldn't do it now, like no way. But in your 20s, you can do that. And then at some point, I had many realizations. I had, what I would describe really as an awakening. Like, hey, this is not where I want to live. This is not who I want to be. This is not what I want in my life. This is not what I want for my daughter. This is bullshit, basically. All this stuff I'm doing. And so at that point, the focus became, well, what do I want? Kind of similar to you, like, reprioritizing and figuring out what are my values if they're not these values I've had, up until now, right? So that became a much more close to nature, close to your food supply, water, community, children, more relaxed, all of those things, and less controlled. I've always been a bit of a rebel. I've always been somebody who, sort of warred against the system in my own way. And getting into that for just 2 seconds, like, that's one of the things I appreciate about Ecuador the most, is that there's just much less control. There's just much less regulation. Like, this is the way we do things here. Right. There's just much less of that, People thought I was crazy in New York because of the way I parented, which was to let my daughter, at the time, I only had a daughter, now I have 3 kids, but to let my daughter basically do her thing. Right? Wow. If she's climbing something, that's okay. She's learning how to climb something. If she's running like full speed, and that's okay. If she's jumping in the mud, that's okay. Right. She's doing her thing. And people would look at me like, oh, and it's that kind of helicopter parenting thing. But it was hard to do that back home, right, because people think you're crazy. Right. That's how everybody raises their kids here.
Dude, it was just to jump in.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Because was that last week? Were they doing the novena? Was that last week, the novenas again?
Yeah.
That was last week.
So there was they had the kids. They were doing all these activities for the kids in front of the church, and they had potato sack races for all different ages, and they had the speaker and music and all these different things. But they had this giant, like, I don't even know, 50-foot pole that they had braced and held up, and at the top of the pole was all these like bags of like goodies and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. I didn't see that this time.
And the kids had to go and
they grease it or no?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, they greased it.
Yeah, the one I saw, they greased it.
The kids were having to climb it with no handles. There's nothing to grab onto, and they had to use their legs, and they had to climb up. And the kids are way up the pole, and if they touch the prizes, then they win something. But like, that would never fly.
Never.
No.
Anywhere.
Did
but
they not go on each other's backs, like on each other's shoulders?
I didn't see that.
No, okay.
Yeah, I took some video. If I have it, we could put it in.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I didn't see them on backs. But I saw kids climbing. I'm like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
If Quinn was there, he would have been like, Daddy, I'm doing that.
He would have won too. He's athletic. Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff goes on all the time, right? I mean, the first time I saw them burning effigies and then dumping them in the street, and then everyone's jumping over the fire with awesome. The cops standing right there hanging out, like, they're your boys here. There's no like, they're like, is this allowed? There's a ticket for this ticket. There's none of that. That stuff's not going on here, which is one of the things I appreciate about this place, place the most. So I started looking around at different options, did all of my research on the internet. Most of it was bad research. I don't have your research skills. Most of it was bad research. You couldn't get a lot of good information at that time certainly about Ecuador, but I would say about a lot of these places I was looking into.
I mean, has that really changed?
Well, thanks to us, a little bit.
Maybe, we're doing our best, but I mean, it's still a lot of bad information.
100%. Yeah, a lot of bad information. No, but at that time, like, anyway, so without making that too long of a story, but I was looking for, I had a list, right? And the list was, I didn't want to be on the water, like the ocean. I didn't want to be near a volcano. I didn't want like a nuclear power plant next door. I wanted a stable, comfortable climate year round, preferably warm. I wanted, ease of immigration, safety, and I wanted clean. I wanted like pristine. I wanted clean soil, clean water, clean air, those kinds of things. And, from all my research, it was the southern Andes of Ecuador. That was like where I honed in on. And then randomly saw these videos of Vilcabamba with like people doing weird stuff that appealed to me. And came down here with a business partner at the time. I was investing in real estate back in New York. Was on the verge of really making a fortune, and sold what I had and walked away from it and came here for the different lifestyle. And I came down with a business partner at the time. We toured the country for 3 weeks, which was a wildly eye-opening experience. I didn't do a lot of traveling prior to that. I'd been to Venezuela. I'd been to the Caribbean. I'd been a couple of places in Europe, and that's like it. So to come down here and the first time you eat a lunch at a very regular Ecuadorian restaurant, and you walk by the kitchen, it's like it's different, right? Those things, and I'm not talking crap. I love this place, but there's differences here, and we didn't speak any Spanish at the time, zero. Like literally, it was like cerveza, baño, gracias. That was like it. We traveled around the country. It's a beautiful country. We saw a lot of cool places. The idea was to end in this area. Loja, Vilcabamba. That's where I thought I would want to be. Turned out to be accurate. And kind of came down here to do a community, to build, and that's kind of what we're doing in many ways. So yeah, that's kind of my story, and yeah, I want to jump in. I think we should all, it'd be nice to jump in for a few minutes, just sort of like what this place means to us now, because it's a different time, right? It's like there's the reasons you come and what you're thinking then, which for the three of us is all similar and different.
Sure. Same but different.
Yeah, and then what, now we're here, like I'm 10, 2 plus 10, 12 years in. So what is it, what has it been like now? And for me, I'm still on the grind, which is weird, right? Like I still work really hard. I still have that piece in me, but I've been able to incorporate in the lifestyle things that I truly care about. Like we had to go sign a document today at what time was it? 10 a.m. in the notary in Malacatos, which is 15 minutes away. At 9:15 this morning, I'm at the river with my son, swimming. We had to get out of there by 9:45 to go pick you up and hit the...
At 8:45, he's messaging me, come to the river.
So, it's like, that's awesome, right? Like the fact that, and I get to weave those things in throughout my day all the time, whether it's going to watch my son play soccer, whether it's going to the river. On the weekends, it's full on, we're in nature, we're hiking, we're swimming, we're picking fruits off of fruit trees, and then in the work life, it's also fun because we're creating communities, we're building, we're doing projects that better people's lives, that actually give people awesome places to live. Like it's kind of fun. Even where we work, it's next to the juice factory, and I can get all my healthy smoothies and drinks, and it's a few doors down from a coconut shop where I can drink all my coconuts. And I get to hang out with you morons all day and talk crap, which is a lot of fun. And my wife works there, and and my kids come in and out because it's a tiny town and everybody's right there. And like, it's just, I enjoy this place a lot. And then it's like, some of that values stuff for me is crucial. It's like the people here, and I'm talking about Ecuadorians. The expat community is awesome too. It's different, it's wild, it's diverse. There's all kinds of people here, but the Ecuadorian community, the Ecuadorians, like people from here, people from Ecuador, in general, are just really awesome people. Like they're just down to earth, straightforward. What you see is what you get. People who have a certain way of living their lives, certain sort of customs and traditions and this and that. And like, they're great people, and they have a great society and a great culture.
Awesome people.
And they're very accepting and kind, and you get to like have all of that as well, which is, beautiful for me.
Yep.
Yeah. We did the ballet class or something. The golf class. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, Jesse.
Yeah, man.
It's good.
All right, you're next. Are we gonna keep going or no?
Oh, is it? Yeah, well, go Carl. Yeah.
Carl?
I don't
All right.
even remember
Just
what-
about the
So
reason.
yeah, like what, like
Yeah.
just sort of like some of what it means to you now,
Sure.
right? Like there's the how you got here and the expectations, and then you're here. You in your case, you're here 12 years.
Sure.
So like you shared some of it. Obviously, the kids. The kids, the family, that's a centerpiece, of course, of your life.
Yep.
But how does that relate to like here?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned all the reasons why we're here all the time on this podcast. I would say definitely the weather is so comfortable and good all year round. And I know it sounds superficial, but like anytime we travel somewhere else, we're like, this is, the weather's never good enough, right? When you live here for a while.
Well, also, sorry to interrupt you just 2 seconds. Somebody was telling me this, you were there with me this morning, that the skies here are clear.
Yes.
You don't have the strange clouds. You've got clear
All
skies
those
here.
clouds that don't look natural.
The clouds that
Those
don't look
clouds.
natural.
Yeah.
You don't-
Checkerboard clouds?
checkerboard clouds, and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
You don't have that here. I'm
No.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, the weather, what you already spoken about, but the fact that here, it's not like there's no rules of law, right?
No.
It's not like it's chaos and anarchy, right?
Not at all.
But the rules are a lot looser, and sometimes they're not enforced. I really like that. Like, I really like to drive whatever speed I want, right? Not wear my seatbelt. It sounds terrible. Whenever
Blasting rich men north of Richmond, singing at the top of your lungs.
There's like 17,000 versions of that song,
And he's
Carl
got
has
all of them.
Every single one on repeat.
I have a few. Yeah.
1,000.
17,000, I don't know, but that's a good
87.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that the culture is laid back. It's not as it's just people are not stressed out here. I think I'm more stressed out than most people I know.
Yeah, me
Here,
too.
From working hard
Locals,
and trying to
yeah.
run a business and all the things, the hats that we have to wear and the balls we have to juggle. The chocolate.
Did you salt the chocolate balls? Or were
Some
they
of them, I
unsalted?
think.
Brandon.
I don't know.
not
I
go
wasn't,
there.
I
Please
wasn't
don't go
around there. at
When you
these times.
salt the chocolate balls, do they shrivel?
I don't know, man. Like, I'll tell you,
Don't make
the Picari chocolate
Yeah.
sea
Oh,
salt,
that's
dude.
the best.
Come on.
No,
Yeah. I don't know where your mind
No.
was. but
No comment.
I did put salt. I put salt in all the sweets that I made.
Oh,
Because
nice.
it always brings out the flavor, right? Salt. I think salt opens up your
Did
taste
I
buds.
just go too far for Brandon?
Did you?
I didn't know that was possible.
I think he was gonna go farther.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. You're full of it.
All right. So yeah, most people here are not stressed, which is great. It's great.
Yeah.
I think raising kids in Canada, like we've gone back to Canada sometimes, and it's just a different lifestyle. Here, the kids can play with their friends and walk around town, go to soccer, and sometimes I got to pick up my kids. I don't know about it. My wife sends me a message,
She sends me a message.
and I don't check my phone because we're recording a podcast.
Yeah.
And then our kids find their way home.
No,
right?
it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a system now.
Right.
It is going to my house and they'll wait.
That's right. They
Yeah,
walk to Brendan's
walk
house,
my
which is what, like
couple
mile
minutes.
away,
Yeah,
or
maybe. Yeah.
is it
It's
a
just on the
mile,
edge
or-
of town. Yeah. Not. Yeah.
15-minute walk maybe.
Yeah.
No, we do it like 7
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
From the soccer
from the
field?
soccer
Oh,
field.
from the soccer field. Yeah, probably 15. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about 15, maybe a little
Yeah.
more. Yeah. So they walk from one end of town to the other end, and it's
Yeah.
safe and it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's good. Yeah, and the fact that we have fresh fruits and vegetables and fresh food available all year round, mostly organic.
And
some of the
heat.
things. Yeah, of course, the cost of living is definitely.
But
a big reason.
specifically of the food, like the fact that you can buy a mango for 2, 3, 4 for $1 or whatever,
Yes.
versus and a delicious
At the height of the
organic.
season,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
And guys, yes, we're inexpensive relative to where we're from in the West.
Yes.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
We understand that things here are what they are, and there's a local economy that exists. When we're saying it's inexpensive, it's relative to shopping for food in the U.S. or Canada or England or places like that are more,
Yeah.
well, just places like that. You get the idea. So that's what that means, relative to that.
Yeah, and our goal and vision really is to build our own house. Where we have land that we want to develop, that we're gonna work on developing soon. But yeah, that's our goal, just to build our own little homestead, grow our food, grow our gardens and stuff, because we're renting currently, and have a peaceful, tranquil, humble life. Like, we're not looking for helicopters and sailboats and yachts. We're just.
Will you come on mine though if I get one?
Sure.
In community, right? In the community,
you're
not thinking. Well, you tell me, but I don't think you're thinking of like something way out rural, off grid, somewhere in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors.
No, we want to be 15, 20 minutes out from Vilcabamba, which is where our community is, which is where most of our friends are, I guess those are the reasons we're here. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about going back to Canada. My wife is very attached to her family.
Sure.
It's we have friends back home that have their mom and dad and grandparents and aunts and uncles, helping them raise their kids.
Sure.
We don't have that here. We don't have extended family. We just have our friends who have become like family, basically. So it's a different family, different community. Family becomes your community, basically, or community becomes your family. Those are the main reasons we're here.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, and it's and I'll turn it over to you, Brandon, but one of the things that you made me think of when you were talking, and also what you mentioned about prices and things like that. One of the most rewarding things I think about what we do is it's like we actually get to give back.
Yes.
We actually get to provide livelihoods for like a reasonably decent number of people at this point, of locals, like of people from here, where we actually get to contribute to, hey, this person pays their bills, lives their lives, buys their stuff, so on and so forth, because we're doing the things that we're doing. And forgetting the like ripple through of that, right? Because then that creates people spending money and supporting other businesses and all that kind of stuff. But that's been really rewarding,
right?
To actually see the benefit to the community.
Yeah.
Of some of the stuff we're doing just economically, but then also we get to like do some charity stuff,
right?
And some different things like that. Yeah,
the charity piece is really rewarding. What we're doing, being able to do small things that go a long way, with sponsoring soccer teams or doing community events. But then even more so for me, I thought about, there's not many people in the region that are really that are from here, that are reaching markets in the United States or Canada or Europe or some of these other places that have different standards or quality of life or standards of living, costs of living, and because we do what we do, like that's where some of that transfer, that exchange is, that's the trade. All these amazing attributes that we've just talked about with the climate and the weather and the food and the community. Well, what's the trade? Well, because we do that and we share that with people, Ecuadorian landholders get to sell their properties to a market that nobody would know about unless we weren't doing what we're doing, because nobody's sharing that, right? So people look at that and they confuse sometimes what we're doing, and you guys are realtors and you're just marking stuff up and you're doing this stuff, and it's like, no, Ecuadorians have the landowners have a price that they want for land, and we're a conduit, right? And there's puts and takes like any type of asset in the world, but we're a conduit for bringing people here to say, hey, these are the attributes that maybe they would have never had. And so for me, to some of that, where some of these families that have been landlocked, or they have a change where they have, like you said, they have these generations of families that live together, and then you have some of the youngest generations, they don't want to be sugarcane farmers. They want to go to college. They want to move to a city. They want to go visit the U.S. or they want to go visit Peru, or they want to, and then the family's like, all right, well, now they have an opportunity that didn't exist, without people like us doing what we're doing. And to me, that's awesome, because that's like life changing for those people that didn't exist, and it does now, and it's real, and that's cool, man.
Yeah. I just wanted to jump in a few things that you said, because I think it's important to address. First and foremost, culturally here, prices are negotiable, right? Most of the time people, some people have commented about pricing and stuff like that. It's normal for someone to want to sell their property out and say that and ask for a price that's higher than what they're willing to accept. Maybe that's not as common practice.
Most of the world, I
That's
think.
the whole world.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind. So we're not marking up anything. Is basically my point.
Thank you.
We're not marking up anything. Is basically my point, right? We have a small percentage that comes out of the sale price that we get paid as commission. But anyways, that's one thing. Second thing, and I've said this on other podcasts, but I want to reiterate: the local people here are extremely grateful that the expats are moving to this area for economical reason, creating employment. Like, we as a company, we create a lot of jobs, but most expats that live here hire gardener, hire a cleaning lady, hire people to build their house, hire contractors, architects,
Taxi drivers, spend money in the stores, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's right. So I think we are bringing that aspect to Vilcabamba and the surrounding areas. So
we'll bring it to you guys.
Well, and the proof is in the pudding, right? There's no animosity here towards foreigners, which is indicative of that relationship, right? Like, so it's not just that. Yeah, there's some weirdos here. There's some people here that don't always do the right thing, but 9 out of 10 people do the right thing, and that's reflected in the way locals feel about foreigners in this area. Since we're jumping into this topic, I just want to mention a couple of things. The price of property here is set locally. Foreigners have a infinitesimally tiny, a 1/10% type tiny effect on the market. There's just not a lot of foreigners in Ecuador overall, but in most of Ecuador, there's zero, right? So in Vilcabamba, there's a bunch. Outside of Vilcabamba, in this region, there's zero, essentially, right? There's 1 in Zumba, and 8 in Zamora, and 3 in Gonzanama, right? So these are all places we do business in, right? So these are not the market here is set locally. There is not a foreign influence on the market.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that, because that's a misconception I think a lot of people have, and that we've had some comments on that about the local market, and we're trying to explain how Ecuador is a poor country. That's the perception. But the people, to your point, and maybe I don't mean to put the cart before the horse, but in Vilcabamba and Malacatos, there are local Ecuadorians that have second homes all over the place. They have weekend homes, second homes.
That's the principal sales that go on in this region.
So that's like that's like an misunderstood truth that all Ecuadorians are poor. No, Ecuadorians have second homes.
Yeah, I mean, the only people who believe that are people who've never been here.
Right, which is a lot of the people watching.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And so people make those assumptions. No, 100%. I mean, the market in this region is set by Lojanos. It's set by locals who come from the city, from Loja, which is 45 minutes away from where we are. And they use the areas that we live in as second home destinations, which drives the market. It's an interesting history too, right? So if you take Malacatos and Vilcabamba specifically, but you could extrapolate out a little bit to other areas, these were agricultural regions not very long ago. And then as the infrastructure got better, the roads got better, a different type of middle class started to develop in Loja, as again, the infrastructure there got better. Like, all these things are recent here, right? It's very different than back home. The Lojanos began to use these area as second home destinations. And so what used to be sugarcane, mostly in Malacatos, Vilcabamba had some sugarcane, but it was a lot of corn and beans and tomatoes and cucumbers and things like that, started turning into homes, right? I mean, I'm going to interview Peter, who's the owner of Ishkai Luma, who's been here 20 something years. And that's going to be fun. That'll be coming out. But, he was telling me, and I mean, we knew this from other people as well, the road used to end in Vilcabamba not that long ago, right? I think it was maybe 17, 18, 20, 22 years ago at the most. The road ended in Vilcabamba. If you wanted to go south of here, which now there's a highway all the way to Peru, like if you wanted to go south of here, you were walking or you were on horse. Like that.
Right.
Wow, those were your options. So that's like places we do business in now, right? Kinara, Yangana, further south in the Orient. Anyway, so the market here is truly a local market. Foreigners do not set prices. They do not drive the market. We do not set prices or drive the market. We play a very small role in facilitating sales in this region, along with a bazillion other real estate companies and local transactions that go on even person to person. And, we do our best simply to do our due diligence, understand the processes, help people with the processes, assure that there's no mistakes made in any of the aspects of the transaction, that both sides are, interests are protected. And, we turn down listings constantly for folks that come to us with properties that are just overpriced. They want more than the market will bear. We've been doing this a long time. We understand the market really well, and we have tons of sales with locals, based on all the same properties we're listing. But it is interesting, right? From a foreign perspective, it's like you might look at, this happened to me for the first years for sure. You look at like you're in Ecuador, you're looking at Ecuador, right? So you got the misconceptions and you're thinking, oh, this is Latin America, it's this, it's that. And you're looking at, a 5,000 square meters, which is about 1.25 acres. Yeah. About 5,000 square meters, in some rural town in Ecuador, and they want $500,000. And you're like, I'm getting ripped off. This is insane. The only person who would buy that property is a local, because they understand the market and what you could do with it. It means it's close to town, it's developable, you can do apartment buildings, you can chop it up into little 200 square meter lots, blah, blah, blah. So a local developer, a local business owner, or a local person who understands how to make money off of that, or what they are going to do with it, what their vision is for, maybe they'll put a business there. We've never sold a property like that to a foreigner, ever. But the foreigners complain about, you're ripping off, that's a gringo price, right. And it's only locals that would ever buy that property.
That's true. That's very true.
And then the value is the opposite, right? It's like, Vilcabamba is not super cheap at all. Like, Malacatos, Vilcabamba, like there's a lot of demand out of Loja. This is not a cheap place. You go 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away, that's where the value comes in, right? Where you sent us a property yesterday that was like 30 something hectares, I think, or for like 60 something thousand. That kind of stuff exists, but it doesn't exist where there's local demand. It exists where there's not a lot of people that living normally, and it doesn't necessarily have a large economic activity that people want it for, right? It's like something that people who live out there, they grow some bananas, they grow some this, they grow some that, they hang out, they swim in the river, they live a nice life, but they're not buying that to chop it up, to do this, to turn it into this, to turn it into that. So there's a lot of value here in those kinds of properties. But if you want to live where the people want to live, the market's the market.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. Is we done? Are we gonna? I think
this is a long
one. I'm surprised my phone is still on.
It might not be. It's not telling you ahead of time. Don't move your chair.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. So let's definitely hear. We'd love to hear from you guys in the pod. Did I have any more notes to make people comment? I think
just comment down below. Like if you disagree with us, we want to hear your opinions. These are our opinions. So if you disagree with what we're sharing, if you're from here and you have a different opinion, if you're not from here and you think our opinion of where we're from is wrong, tell us. Like we're happy to have that conversation. It's fun to engage and have those conversations online. I've been getting into some of that. It's been a blast. So put some comments down below. Give us some feedback. Is the audio quality good? How do you like in the camera setup? Bear with us. It's a work in progress for us, but we are taking our time to really care about to present a good product for you guys. So we're doing our best, but give us some tips, give us some feedback on that. And if you're not subscribed, stop right now. Subscribe to the channel. It'll help us out. We appreciate the support. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, hit the bell icon.
And on that note, we hope to see you here one day.
So until then,
see you next time.
Ciao, guys.